They didn't scream, they didn't threaten, they just quietly used my name to borrow nearly $500,000. And the worst part? They never thought I'd find out. I'm Cassidy Morgan. For most of my life, I was the fixer, the steady one, the rock everyone leaned on. But one Wednesday morning, everything changed. I discovered my own family had forged my name on a mortgage I never knew existed. No one asked, no one warned me. They just assumed I'd carry it, like I always did. But this time, I chose differently. This is the story of how I took back my name and walked away from the role I never asked to play. If you've ever been treated like you're too strong to break, like your silence is owed, this story is for you. The call came on a Wednesday. Ordinary enough. I still had coffee breath and my hair in a loose bun from the rush out the door. I'd barely sat down at my desk when my phone buzzed. No caller ID. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something told me I should. Hello, is this Cassidy Morgan? I hesitated. Yes? This is Alex from Western Trust Bank. We're calling regarding your mortgage balance, $478,000. I nearly laughed. I think you have the wrong person. I don't have a mortgage. Ma'am, he said, his voice professional but edged with concern. The file lists your full name, date of birth, and social security number. You're the primary borrower. It was opened 3 years ago. 3 years ago. My blood went cold. That was the year Harper, my younger sister, started dreaming out loud about her fresh start. She talked about a house with a wraparound porch and space for a family she didn't even have yet. I remember her waving Pinterest boards over Sunday dinners, laughing about her bad credit like it was a sitcom punchline. Mom just smiled and said, "We'll figure it out. Family always finds a way." Not like this. I ended the call politely somehow, but I sat frozen for a full minute staring at nothing. My mouth went dry, my palms damp. No mortgage? Of course not. I lived in a one-bedroom apartment I rented month to month. I had no property, no co-signed car, nothing complicated. But my gut told a different story. I dug through drawers, pulling out old letters and tax forms. Deep under a pile of discount coupons and expired coupons, I found a plain white envelope. Western Trust. I'd gotten it 6 months ago and never opened it, assuming it was a promo. Now, it felt like a warning I missed. I sat on the floor, surrounded by scraps of my life. None of this made sense, but one truth kept echoing in my mind. Only one group of people ever had access to all my information. My full name, my social, copies of my signature. The ones I helped fill out FAFSA forms and medical bills. The ones I trusted by default. My family. It didn't come like a slap. It arrived like a whisper, a door quietly locking behind me. I didn't want it to be true. But that night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, blinking into the dark, and a single question looped in my mind. If they had asked me, would I have said yes? I didn't think so. But that's not what hurt. What hurt was that they never gave me the chance. The next morning, I brewed a pot of coffee I didn't drink and sat at my kitchen table surrounded by paperwork. I opened my laptop, fingers trembling, and requested copies of the mortgage documents from Western Trust. They said it would take 24 hours. I spent every minute of that day spiraling through memory. Harper had always been bold, the kind of person who believed the universe owed her something. She wasn't malicious, just entitled in that glittery, charming way that made people forgive her easily, including me. 3 years ago, she'd called me from a parking lot outside a rental office. She said she was done with apartments, wanted a real place, a yard, a guest room, a life that looked like her vision board. She laughed about her credit score like it was someone else's problem, said she'd figure it out. I remember her exact words. "You always make things happen, Cass. You've got that golden touch." Back then, I thought it was a compliment. I thought she was just dreaming out loud. Now, those memories played back like evidence. Her odd questions about my middle name spelling, that time she borrowed my license to get into a club, Mom asking me to help with some paperwork when Harper was between jobs. I remembered signing a medical form for our dad, a FAFSA for Harper, a car rental agreement when theirs was in the shop. So many little yeses over the years. Yes, I'll help. Yes, you can use it. Yes, I trust you. The next day, the email from Western Trust landed like a hammer. Attached was a PDF, dozens of pages long. The mortgage, my name, my social, my birthday, and then the signature. It was mine, but not really. It looked like mine, down to the slight curve of the C and the upright loop on the G in Morgan. But I could tell it was too clean, too confident. It was a version of my name written by someone who studied me, someone who practiced. My breath caught in my throat. Harper. Of course it was her. She had access, she had motive, and she had family on her side. I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I just sat still, as if movement might shatter the fragile line between what I wanted to believe and what was real. They hadn't just used my name, they had stolen it. I printed the mortgage document and laid it on my table, right beside a folder of my actual signature copies. Tax returns, lease agreements, employment forms. I'd always signed my name the same way, tight lettering, a small hesitation before the final Y. But this one, this forgery, it was bolder, straighter, like confidence had been faked onto the page. I stared at it for hours, not because I doubted who did it, but because I couldn't believe how far it had gone. This wasn't a simple mistake. It wasn't some clerical error. It was deliberate. I went to my bedroom closet, pulled out an old filing box, and started digging. 10 years of family paperwork, medical authorizations, FAFSA forms, joint applications I'd filled out just to help. I never thought twice about it. I was the dependable one, the fixer, the one who always said yes. And suddenly I saw it, the pattern. My name wasn't just trusted, it had become convenient. Every emergency, every favor, every form they didn't want to deal with on their own, they turned to me, and I gave. At first out of love, then out of obligation, and now I was done. I took my time, labeled folders, highlighted copies, created a spreadsheet tracking dates and types of documents I'd signed. It was tedious, but it was mine, my evidence. By midnight, I had built a quiet mountain of proof, not just of identity theft, but of a long, slow betrayal wrapped in the disguise of family. I didn't call them, I didn't text Harper, or ask Mom why she let this happen. I didn't yell, I didn't even whisper, because for the first time in my life, I wasn't going to ask for an explanation, I was going to act. And the first step was finding someone who could help me make it official. I remember the birthday card before I remember the birthday. It was from my mom, loopy cursive in purple ink, dotted with tiny hearts. To our steady one, it said, you've always been our rock, our backup plan. We don't say it enough, but we're so lucky to have you. At the time, I smiled. Now those words read like a job title I never applied for. Growing up, I didn't notice how early it started. The Cassidy will handle it tone in my parents' voices. Harper forgot her science project? I stayed up with her gluing foam balls onto cardboard. Dad missed a payment? I called the credit company and asked for an extension at 16. Mom was overwhelmed? I made dinner, folded laundry, reassured her it would all be okay. I was the calm one, the capable one, the easy one. And Harper was fire and mess and apologies wrapped in charm. She lit the house up and burned through chances, but she was always forgiven. Because she was going through something, because she needed support, because I could take care of myself. No one said it outright, but the message was clear. Cassidy doesn't need help. She is help. I didn't mind, at first. There was something noble about being the dependable one. I wore it like a badge. I liked being the one who fixed things, who didn't fall apart. But somewhere along the way, being strong stopped being a choice and started being a requirement. I couldn't cry without it being dramatic, couldn't say no without being cold, couldn't ask for help without being told, but you've always had it together. And the day they signed my name to that mortgage, I realized they didn't see me at all, not as someone with boundaries, not as someone who could break, just as a fallback, a name they could borrow when life didn't go according to plan. That realization cracked something open in me, not with anger, but with clarity. I wasn't their backup plan, I wasn't their rock, I was their illusion of safety, and that illusion was built on my silence. So I started to shed it, slowly, quietly. I packed up the birthday cards, archived the family texts I used to answer immediately, turned off notifications. I let the phone ring out, because for the first time I wasn't going to carry this alone. I picked up the folder I'd built, held it to my chest like armor. Then I made the call. "Hi," I said to the receptionist. "I was referred to a legal consultant. His name is Callahan. I need help with a case of identity theft." It was the first time I'd said it out loud. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like becoming whole. The office was nothing like I expected. No receptionist, no sleek building with floor-to-ceiling glass windows. Just a small brick storefront with a navy door and a peeling sign that read, "James Callahan, Legal Services." I pushed it open to find a man in his late 50s sitting at a plain desk with a black coffee in one hand and a yellow legal pad in the other. He looked up, eyes sharp but kind, and motioned me in with a nod. "Cassidy Morgan?" I nodded. "You're Mr. Callahan?" He stood to shake my hand. Firm grip, no small talk. "Let's sit. Show me what you've got." I handed him the folder, my timeline of betrayal. He didn't flinch, just flipped through it slowly, page by page. Mortgage contract, signature comparisons, email trails, tax documents, notes on conversations. My stomach twisted with every turn of the page. When he finished, he closed the folder gently and looked at me dead on. "You understand what this is, right?" I nodded. "Identity theft, fraud. At minimum, and done by family, which makes it more complicated. Emotionally, not legally." I swallowed hard. "I'm not trying to ruin them. I just want it undone. I want my name back." He tapped a knuckle on the folder. "Then here's what we do. Step 1, file a police report. Step 2, send a formal dispute letter to the bank with attached evidence. Step 3, notify the credit bureaus and freeze your report. Step 4, press charges if necessary." I blinked. "That simple?" "No," he said. "It's messy and long, and it'll burn every bridge still standing." I thought about that for a second. The bridges were ash the day they signed my name. Callahan didn't smile, but something softened in his face. He nodded, then pulled out a new notepad and began outlining everything in neat bullet points, like a battlefield plan. He didn't ask questions like, "Why didn't you stop it sooner?" or, "Are you sure it wasn't just a misunderstanding?" He believed me. From the start. And maybe that's why I didn't cry when I left his office. For the first time in weeks, I felt like someone was on my side. Not out of obligation, not because they were related to me, but because they saw the truth and didn't flinch. That night, I sat at my kitchen table again, same spot, different posture, not hunched, not scared. I printed the draft report Callahan had prepared, along with the letter to Western Trust. I signed it in pen, my real signature, with the hesitation in the Y and the loop that only I could do. It was time to reclaim what was mine, and I would do it one page at a time. I didn't tell them I was coming. I just showed up, like always, on time, quiet, polite. The Morgan daughter who didn't cause scenes. The house smelled like roast chicken and lemon cleaner, same as it always did. Mom opened the door in an apron, flour on her cheek. "Cassidy, sweetheart, you made it just in time. Harper's already here." Of course she was. Harper was curled into the couch like she owned it, legs tucked under her, scrolling through her phone. Dad sat in his recliner with the football game humming in the background, a beer balanced on his knee. No one flinched when they saw me. No one looked nervous. It was like nothing had happened. Dinner was normal, painfully so. Mom served her garlic green beans and mashed potatoes in the chipped blue bowl she'd had since I was 10. Harper complained about her HOA fees. Dad grunted at the game. I nodded, smiled, made small talk. All while that folder sat in my purse beneath the table, heavy as a brick. After dessert, store-bought pie, still in its plastic shell, I cleared my throat. "Quick question," I said casually, like I was about to ask about insurance or tires. 3 pairs of eyes turned to me. "Does anyone know anything about a mortgage from Western Trust, with my name on it?" The silence that followed was instant and suffocating. Harper's shoulders tensed. Mom froze, pie knife hovering midair. Dad cleared his throat and looked back at the TV. No one said a word. So I waited. Let the stillness stretch like a held breath. Finally, Mom spoke, voice soft like she was trying not to wake a sleeping baby. "Oh, honey, that's just paperwork. Harper needed help qualifying. You weren't paying anything. It's family." Harper didn't look up from her phone. You've got good credit, Cass. I don't. It's not like it hurt you. It's not fair if you won't help. Not fair. Like I'd been selfish. Like I should be ashamed for even asking. I looked at them. My mother, who once called me her calm in the storm. My sister, who I'd carried through breakdowns and bailouts. My father, who couldn't even meet my eyes. And I saw it so clearly. They didn't think they'd done anything wrong. To them, I was still the fallback, the rock, the plan B. I nodded slowly. Thanks for explaining, I said, calm as glass. Harper relaxed. Dad reached for the remote. Mom looked relieved, like a crisis had passed. None of them saw what had shifted. They thought I was still the same Cassidy. But I hadn't come to fight. I'd come to listen. And they had used the moment to justify the lie. The next morning, I walked into the local precinct with my evidence folder held tight against my chest. The front desk officer wore a name tag that said H. Reynolds. He looked up, expression neutral, but I saw the flicker of recognition as I laid the folder on the counter. I need to file a report, I said. Identity theft, fraud. He nodded slowly and took the folder. As he flipped through the pages, his brows furrowed, his shoulders straightened. He didn't say much, just asked a few questions, printed out the form, and handed me a pen. When I signed my name, my hand didn't shake. You sure you want to move forward with this? He asked. Not like he doubted me, but like he'd seen too many stories that ended with regret. Yes, I said. If I don't, they'll just keep doing it. He stamped the top of the report. Understood. It's officially filed. 2 hours later, I stood at the post office with a padded envelope in hand. Inside was the police report, the notarized dispute form Callahan had written, copies of my ID, credit report, and the fraudulent mortgage. I handed it to the clerk and watched her slide it into the outbound tray like it was any other piece of mail. But to me, it was a severance, a quiet line drawn in ink. I didn't call my mom. I didn't text Harper. No angry voicemails, no confrontations, no warnings, just silence. 3 days passed, then 5, no response. Then Friday night, just after sunset, came the knock. I looked through the peephole and saw her, Mom, standing outside in her nicest coat, face drawn tight with something between fury and fear. I opened the door but didn't step aside. She didn't wait for an invitation. How could you? She hissed. How dare you go to the police? Her voice cracked like glass. I said nothing. We trusted you to understand. Harper needed help. Family sticks together. Family asks, I said, voice even. They don't steal. She blinked. You've ruined everything, she said. Do you know how this looks? I almost laughed. I didn't ruin anything. I just stopped pretending it wasn't broken. She opened her mouth to argue, but I was already closing the door. The latch clicked into place with the softest sound, but to me, it was louder than any scream. That night, Harper called, 12 times, left 4 voicemails, each one angrier than the last. I deleted them all without listening. The next morning, an email landed in my inbox from Western Trust. Subject line, mortgage dispute, status update. We have suspended the mortgage loan pending investigation. Attached is a formal acknowledgement of receipt and apology for the error. We are reviewing notary records and signature files. I stared at the screen. My credit score was still bruised. The case wasn't closed, but the unraveling had begun. I picked up my phone and dialed Callahan. They're taking it seriously, I said. They usually do, he replied, when the truth speaks louder than shouting. And he was right. I hadn't screamed. I hadn't begged. I had just stood still and let the truth do the work. Spring arrived like a whisper. One morning I looked up and the trees lining my street had bloomed in soft bursts of pink and gold. The air had lost its edge. Even the sun felt gentler, like the world itself had exhaled. I started spending my weekends at the community center, taking pottery classes, volunteering at the library, walking trails I never knew were 5 minutes from my apartment. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I just wanted to live in spaces that were quiet and fully mine. I opened a small online store for the ceramic mugs and bowls I made. Clumsy at first, then slowly steadier. I named the collection Reclamation. It felt fitting. One Saturday, a woman picked up a mug that was slightly off-center, glazed in uneven teal. Why this name? She asked. I smiled. Because it wasn't supposed to exist, but it does. She paid in cash and walked away, and I felt lighter. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea and no phone nearby. The quiet was different now, not the silence of being ignored, but the peace of not needing to be claimed. That's when I saw them. 3 figures standing at the edge of the parking lot. My mother, my father, and Harper. They didn't move, just stood there, half in shadow, unsure if they should come closer. Harper's makeup was smudged. My dad's shirt was wrinkled, untucked. Mom clutched her purse like it was the only solid thing left. I walked down slowly, no rush, no fear. They saw me and froze. Cassidy, Mom started, voice trembling. We made mistakes, but we're still family. Harper stepped forward. I just need help, just for a little while. Please don't shut us out. There was no fire left in me, no anger, just a stillness I had earned. I set my bag down and looked at each of them, really looked. I hope one day you understand what real family means, I said, but it's not something you can steal, or fake, or expect when it's convenient. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a manila envelope. Inside was a copy of the forged mortgage contract, with void stamped across the front in red, and behind it, the birthday card that once read, "You've always been our backup plan." I handed it to my mother. Her hands shook. I'm not angry, I said gently. Not anymore. She opened her mouth to respond, but I didn't wait. I'm finally free, and I'm not coming back. I turned and walked away. My footsteps on the concrete felt heavier than any fight I could have started. When I reached the top of the stairs, I paused. The wind tugged at the hem of my coat. The sun was setting, casting long shadows behind me. I whispered, not to them, but to myself. Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say. And I meant it. They used my name like it belonged to them. But I walked away. No screaming, no apology, no permission, just silence. And they couldn't ignore it. I didn't scream, I didn't beg. I just stood still and let the truth speak for itself. I started over, quietly. I reclaimed my peace, my name, my weekends, my voice. I built a life that belonged to me and no one else. And when they came back, not to apologize but to ask for more help, I handed them the truth, stamped in red, void. I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. If you've ever been the dependable one, the one who never says no, the one they think will always say yes, let me tell you something. Sometimes walking away is the loudest thing you'll ever say. If this story hit close to home, please like, share, and subscribe. Your story matters too. Let the silence end here.